Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel. And in our top stories today from the Huffing and Puffington Post, Kamala Harris campaign aides suggest campaign was just doomed. Well, it may be fair to say that the entire presidency of Joe Biden, along with Kamala Harris as his vice president, was entirely doomed. But of course, the Establishment Uni-party needed someone with levels of popularity and notoriety, and thus they took Joe Biden to be that surrogate. And ironically enough, they picked the last place Democrat in the campaign, along with, at the time, Joe Biden, to then be his vice president, which was insane. But of course, as we've covered here on the BuzWeaver channel for the last 4 years, and this is not to disparage Joe Biden, but at his age, he had cognitive decline. He had issues. But the Establishment Uni-party was so determined to make sure that their agenda and their narratives and their bank accounts and their pockets and their subsidies and all of the things that come along with what they wanted for themselves, they had to make sure that Donald Trump was not in their way. And so they picked Joe Biden and then, of course, Kamala Harris. And it was just doomed from the beginning. So you could make an argument as to how long the establishment was going to go before they removed Joe Biden. Because, of course, now the Democrats are arguing about they should have removed him sooner. He should have resigned sooner. So there was probably always this in the back of their minds, as we had talked about here on the channel. But, of course, we couldn't talk about those things because you would be labeled a conspiracy theorist, right? You would be shamed. You would be ridiculed. You'd be banned. And, of course, we're finding out that so many of the things that we talked about here on the channel did manifest. So, senior advisors to Vice President Kamala Harris's failed presidential campaign suggested this week that there just wasn't much else Harris could have done to beat Donald Trump. Harris couldn't have distanced herself from President Joe Biden, they said, because she was loyal. She couldn't have responded more forcefully to attacks over trans rights because doing so would have been playing Trump's game. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to make a rather hyperbolic, rather sensational statement here, but the American people were more concerned about the economy and their jobs and their work and what was going on at the border than they were on whether or not men could use women's bathrooms. Now, I say it in that way because I'm just trying to generalize things, because you could see that a lot of the attention and a lot of the focus by the Democrats were really on very small groups of individuals. And I have nothing against smaller groups of individual people because everyone's Americans, but we're all supposed to have equal rights in this country. And I know these people think they don't have equal rights, and most of the time it's because they think that they should be able to do whatever they want to do and get away with it, and society has certain boundaries, right? There are certain cultural boundaries, and there's things that people don't necessarily want to cross over, but they were able to hijack our culture, hijack our institutions, and hijack our justice system to a point where a lot of these things that would not be cultural norms were being introduced, and people just didn't like it. And so that was another contributing factor to Kamala Harris. And of course, she didn't necessarily want to push back on Joe Biden because he was the establishment darling. He was the establishment pick. So it's not unusual. And then, of course, we see more from individuals here. Kamala Harris campaign aides suggest campaign was just doomed. And so they're coming out and realizing that things that they had tried to do just weren't working and weren't going to work. And we also learned, let me get to it here real quick, that MSNBC was unaware Harris campaign gave $500,000 to Al Sharpton's group ahead of a friendly interview. So as we learned from Lily Lee, I think her name is Lily Lee, is it? One of the Asian girl that was on Fox News, who was the main financial person for the Democrats, that they went into this with $1 billion and ended up being $20 million short, $20 million in debt. So they blew money like crazy, and they still couldn't pull it off for Kamala Harris. And what I was on earlier was just to show how the world, knowing that Donald Trump is going to be president, they're already following in line. So Trump pledges to slap 25% tariff on all products from Canada and Mexico, plus 10% imports from China. Now, of course, most of the world leaders are lining up and getting ready to, negotiate and talk with Donald Trump, because they're going to try to curry favor. But, of course, they're also trying to do face-saving things, like up here in this top corner here. Mexico's president hits back at Trump's threat with fiery letter because of the demands he was making on Mexico. And, of course, this is all for the camera. What she was doing was all for the camera, just like these governors and mayors of these different cities that say they're not going to cooperate with Donald Trump, removal of illegal aliens, illegal immigrants. But the thing is, again, it's all play to the camera, because behind closed doors, they know that they're going to have to comply with Donald Trump. The main reason being is that even when it comes down to balance of powers, a state can't harbor criminals, right? And an illegal alien who comes in this country illegally is essentially a criminal. And so the states will have very little ground to be able to leverage from, because they can't harbor illegals. They can't harbor criminals. So this argument about protecting certain individuals here, there, and the other is really ambiguous and generalized, but it's just absolutely extraordinary. And a little something we touched on the other day, I told you that a classmate of mine on Facebook was saying that Trump didn't have the popular vote, or didn't have the majority, didn't have the mandate, I think is what he was really trying to say. But of course, the way the left speaks sometimes is they don't really take a few moments to really articulate what they want to try to communicate. But essentially it is they're trying to play off the fact that Trump won the popular vote. So we're going to go back to a CNN article back in December the 22nd of 2016. And you can see here, the Democrats outpaced presidential-elect Trump by almost 2.9 million votes, with 65,844,000, you see it there, which gave Hillary 48.2% of the popular vote to his 46.1%. Now, the reason these numbers are important is because my classmate was trying to suggest that Donald Trump didn't have a mandate, despite the fact that he had 50% of the popular vote. So how is it that Hillary Clinton was able to have a mandate and the popular vote, or have a mandate with a popular vote, when she lost in the Electoral College with 48.2%, but when it comes to Donald Trump, who has 50% of the vote, he supposedly doesn't have a mandate? Isn't that amazing? And here's what's even more interesting is, as you see here on this Google, presidential results, he's at 50%. But as a result of this continuing battling back and forth over whether or not Trump has a mandate, you can see that here on Reuters, they have him at 49.9. They couldn't give him 50%. They just couldn't round off to 50%. And what's funny is the New York Times did as well, 49.94. It's extraordinary, because for the longest time, I would still check, because there were still states that were counting votes, believe it or not, and Trump was always at 50%. He was always at 50%, just like the Google outcome here says. But yet, just recently, just like as of today, I think, they're showing him at 49.9 and 49.94. It's absolutely extraordinary. The cope that these individuals are trying to deal with is absolutely extraordinary. But as far as Kamala Harris, you're hearing the rumors now about her running for governor of California, maybe even being the front runner for 2028. And I want her to run, because I see the same thing happening again, but it's absolutely extraordinary. But nonetheless, guys, that's what I had for you today. And of course, we have Thanksgiving coming up, so I'm kind of debating on if you'll see a video tomorrow or not for Thanksgiving. But I want to let everyone know, I hope you have and enjoy a very happy Thanksgiving for all those here in the States. Of course, Canada already had their Thanksgiving last month. But for all those who participate here in the States on Thanksgiving, I hope you guys have a great one. And I want to thank all you guys across BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey for your guys' continued support. Thank you so much for the likes, the shares, and the comments. And of course, below this video, you can find the various social media links that I belong to and affiliate links. So make yourselves available of that. And of course, your likes and your shares and your comments do help out the channel, and that's all greatly appreciated. And appearing there on the screen, that will be the channel icon. You guys can click on that to subscribe, as well as to select notifications. That way you know when there's content here on the channel. And I'll see all you guys possibly in the Friday vlog, but maybe there'll be some videos coming up. But I'll see all you guys in the next video.